Welcome back, everyone. Hawkins with you again, and it's time for some more EU4. But today's episode is going to be a little different by necessity. I was recording the latest batch of content, pardon me, and got through two episodes of recording and realized that I wasn't paying attention when I started things up, and the audio wasn't running properly. In fact, the game capture audio wasn't working, nor was my microphone. So I'm going to do a little bit of editing on this one. I'm going to cram together the two episodes content and kind of give you snips of what happened. So the next episode we can get back into our normal routine. Hopefully this one's not too choppy and messy for you. I don't normally do them this way. Let me know what you think of it, and we'll get right into it. Before we get started, if you're enjoying the series, please hit that like button. It helps me out. And if you haven't already joined the clan, hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for more great content. Alright, so here we are right at the beginning. We're going to do two episodes here, so there'll be bits and pieces of different things. But let's take a look at where things are at right now. So we've essentially got two wars going on. We got the Dutch War of Independence against the Netherlands, and they've got a lot of troops hanging out there. We also have our war against the Prussian conquest of Tjohord, or whatever that's called, in that one right there, in against Sweden. We've crushed most of the southern part of Sweden, still working on the north, I believe. We want to get that one province and those three. So basically we're going to pull in a state there, and then we're going to pull in the single province in the north, the west there, that has, it's part of the Lubeck trade node. Still working on mashing a few things out of Bohemia here. We definitely want to take a chunk out of them by the end of this one. So far, no bloodshed, no major war battles anyways, but that's going to change. We got to get take care of this guy here, because he's going to end up unsieging our previously sieged spot there. Still got some work to do up north in Sweden, mostly just wandering around with the troops and knocking out what is left of their space. I don't think they've got anything left to defend. We did take a few provinces from Scotland at the beginning of this one, because they were allied with Sweden, if you recall. So we got the Orkney and Shetland Islands. Cash-wise, we're doing not super stellar great, but it's not a major deal. We have no debts right now. Armies are pretty pricey, but they are not merc armies, so that's good. We are holding a lot of forts, and when you hold forts that are during a conquest, as long as you don't shut them off, you actually pay for the maintenance of that fort once you conquer it. So we're sitting 12 years ahead of time, technologically speaking. And let's see, we are two techs behind our military, so we're basically one full tech behind at least, and looking to probably either do quantity ideas, aristocratic, or offensive. Maybe defensive. We're not doing naval ideas, I'll tell you that much. We do have a debt. I thought we didn't, but we do have a debt. It's going to take about 510 to pay that off, so we should be able to do that after this war. We'll get some coin out of this war. Got a lot of bigger nations forming, as is fairly typical from my experiences anyways, in this game. In around 1600 you start getting to the point where very large nations are forming. Hitting about Tech 20 you start getting some of the really big conglomerates going. So we're going to go ahead and press this battle here. I anticipated that we would really do well, but I didn't anticipate that we would do super stellar awesome. Checking for the river crossings, because he does have the same maneuver stat as we do, but we won't get one coming in from straight in from here. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit it, because he's at 14%, and you know, the computer seems to nab those pretty quickly at a lower percentage when you don't want them to. We're gonna skim the speed through a few things in this. I don't want to, or cut and paste my way through this one, because I don't want to drag it out too long for you. I want to do a normal sized episode in the length of two, basically. Cram two down into one. And hopefully this week we can get back onto regular daily scheduled programming. But look at this battle. This battle is going quite nicely. We have substantial higher morale and notably higher what's it called? Tactics. Squishing them real good. We only lost like less than 3,000 dudes for that. And completely crushed them. That army tradition, I tell you. Look at that. 90, what is it, 91? Our army professionalism is nearing 60. Very close. So another couple points and we should be getting the 60-point bonus, which is nice. So here's another target we have. Just, let's say, filling in the loose ends. We've got contact with Iceland here. We definitely want that for potential connection to the New World. It's a lot closer than Scotland. So yeah, we'll probably take advantage of that shortly here. Clean that up and have them join the fold, we'll say. Viborg nearly done the siege there. It's just a matter of time. There's nothing left of the Swedish army and no one to help them. So we actually might be able to get this stack in here. Almost there, and just see that? He took off like halfway, more than halfway through our travel time, and he still beat me. I have no idea how he did that so fast. And yet here, when he's trying to run from Neumark, he's not that fast. I don't know what was going on there. Perhaps we need to bring them into the fold. So this battle here was a complete stack wipe. That finished off the Bohemian troops. It's giving me a little more confidence at this point in the strength of our Space Marines, of our troops here. So we're just going to separate off a few units to let us clean up the sieges going on needed in Bohemia, and then send the main troop down to their last fortress, which is down to the southwest. Still finishing off the Swedish territory, reunifying the second army there, or whatever number army that is. The 6th heading down to join its crew, and then we'll finish off that one fortress pardon me, in the north of Sweden, and then that'll clean up that portion of the war. Look at those generals. Nothing like holding 90 something points in army tradition and stacking out generals for professionalism. I like that new feature of the professionalism. No, Sweden and Bohemia, we're not letting you guys out of this war until we're good and ready. But when we get the crazy generals like that, partially because we got crazy high professional or army tradition, but you also get the chance to roll them repeatedly if you've got excess amount of military points, which we do. We're years ahead of time, and we can use them for that because we also get the army professionalism point each time we roll one. So totally worth doing, in my opinion. What do you guys think? So we got some issues with Norwegian separatists coming up here. The issue of this is totally a lazy move. I just don't want to deal with with the unrest popping up in the Shetlands and Orkney Islands. So we're just going to give them all their autonomy and ignore them. They're really a non-entity to the Empire, so they're more just a landing pad. So if we do that, then they'll only run off in Prussian Ostlandet. You know, the Norwegian south of Norway is where the rebels will happen. Speaking of rebels, the Swedish also have some rebels that are taking some territory from us. So checking out things in the Dutch War of Independence, the Netherlands seems to be doing quite a good job. They're about to take back Utrecht, and the allies against them, Hesse and Cologne, because I don't think Ansbach is doing anything in this war. But anyways, Hesse and Cologne seem to be doing not able to keep up with the 32,000 units that they've got there, so going to do a bit of touching up in a few relations whilst we work here. Continuing to blanket siege the Bohemian countryside while we finish the siege of their now one remaining fortress. This is beautiful to see. Austria is no longer considered a great power. They are my ally, so, you know, that's a thing. But I like the fact that they're no longer a great power. Viborg siege is over, and that ends the only real spot left to the Swedish. And I was going to take out those rebels, and then decided, why bother? Let the Swedish take care of them. They are noble rebels, so they'll probably just not be a problem. They'll probably actually become the new leadership or something. But they might still slow them down and cause them to have troubles. How long ago was it that we released Brunswick as an empire? That was a long time ago. And they're still there. We'll have to take care of them soon. The final days of the Bohemian front there. Oh, looks like Salzburg just lost big time. Augsburg has taken a couple of provinces from them. Salzburg isn't one we need, but Augsburg is for the German Empire. So swinging the navy around to pick up the troops at Finnmark and bring them back down when that's over. Because everybody knows I'm the king of the oceans, right? Sort of. I own the Baltic Navy, or oceans, that's for sure. But reality is, I don't own them all, including the North Sea. And there it is. The Danish, Netherlands have an issue. Not the Danish, the Dutch have an issue with me sailing around there with a bunch of transports and ignoring the fact that they have naval forces. Yep. The revolt happened in the Prussia, which is fine by me. Unfortunately, I don't think I get to it in time. Lost 2 transports by my folly there. And I don't quite get in time with the light ships of Fury there to deal any damage to the Dutch fleet. Finished the last of the Bohemian sieges, so that's entirely 100% sieged out now. And I believe, other than what's the last province in the top northeast there of Sweden, it is the one remaining fleet, or one remaining spot that's not sieged out, other than the rebel ones in the middle. And also, we're going to replace the 2 cogs right away. I think they're brigs now. Scientific experimentation is a research that, or a tech that is available, but I'm actually holding off on it because I want to make sure I've got the admin points to core the new stuff that we're taking first. It won't be a lot, but we should do it anyways. Michael and his third fleet here is going to come down and mess with the Dutch on their coast. Stockholm was just unsieged, which is kind of annoying, but we don't need 100, not really, we don't need anywhere near 100% war score to take what we're taking. And we have way more than what we need to get 100% war score. But there's a Crucius being lost to the rebels, the separatists, so we'll go crush the separatists and take it back. We do get some separation, separatism or whatever it's called. So the Dutch Independence War is now our only military focus. So unfortunately for the Dutch, they didn't manage to win their war. They probably should have peaced out earlier, because my attention was completely elsewhere the entire time. Look at those numbers. That is just atrocious. Total carnage. We actually lost more troops killing these guys than we did killing the Bohemian army in their first fight. Did you notice that? That is wild. I think they had more than the Bohemians did, but... Now, I messed up here. I should have actually dealt with that top there a little easier so the troops would be on the boats without ending the war, but we are going to go ahead and peace out Sweden here right away. So checking on the war score with Sweden, we're at 99%, so our options are fairly wide open. But we want their money, and we want their war reparations. Did I do that right? No, I just about did that wrong. So, we don't want to peace out Sweden. We want to peace out Bohemia first, because, oops, we would have peaced out Sweden and lost the chance to separate peace the two of them. So 700 plus, almost 760 coin plus war reparations. And then we're going to fiddle around with what other options we can do. We could release nations, we could release Hungary, Bavaria, and Moravia, or we could just take some territory from them. We could also hand turf to, say, Nitra, or possibly even to Ansbach. But we'll see what skip ahead to what we come up with at the end. So I know I tend to spend a lot of time on these the peace treaties, usually even more so when it's near the end of a video, and this is where the first video would have ended. But I'm going to eventually get to a decision here where we end up deciding which stuff to pick, and then we will have put in a cut. But we're going to go continue for the next however long it takes to get the second video in here as well. So we'll skip to the point where I finally give you the details. So we're going to go with separating Bavaria off as a separate nation. We're going to take war reparations, take a bunch of cash, and I think that's it. Yeah, we wrecked their alliance with Poland, which is fine. So that's it there. Release Bavaria as sovereign, grab a bunch of cash, annul the treaties with Poland, and that's it. I didn't get to do as much as I wanted because I realized after the fact that, of course, Bohemia being a non-co-belligerent in that war, they cost twice as much to do anything points-wise. So, alright, so here we are in what would have been the second episode again, or would have been 56th episode, but the next episode is going to be 56. This is just going to be an extra long 55. So right now we're sitting allegiance-wise, we're still dealing with Sweden. We're going to end that war right away here. We can end it at any time, really. And then move on to the war in the Dutch Republic. Deal with them. Basically, we got to get in there and do some blasting and some sieging. We still stand with our alliance with Austria, Poland, and Cologne, and Nitra as our allies right now. We separated off Bavaria last time. They love us. So we might consider vassalization if we can find a way to reduce the issues that they have. One of them being they're a member of the Empire. So something we'll look into in the near future is deciding what we do with this pseudo-empire that remains. We don't have much of an empire. We're basically by far the strongest thing left in the empire. But we're not able to be in charge of it, so there's no point. Like if we could have been, we're reformed. If we'd have been Protestant and been able to be the emperor, then we may take a different route here and actually go with reforming the union and separate everybody out. Separate all these guys into their smaller things, get the princes back, and all the rest of it. But in this case, we are not. So this is not going to be an HRE, a play for the HRE at this point. Maybe we'll do that in a future episode, but as some nation I've never played at, but we'll see there. So things down in the south are, pretty okay as is. The control of Ansbach has really helped us over the ages. Looking over the options down here, we could, same situation with Bavaria and Nitra. Neither of them will join because they are HRE members, and because they are just a little too economically strong to deal with that. I think those numbers are pretty extreme. Nitra is a 4-province dealio on the edge of things, surrounded by, big empires, and they're just not willing to ever become a vassal because their economic power is supposedly too high, which makes no sense to me, but we'll see. So Trier is the emperor right now, with Saxony and Trier as the only electors, 24 princes left. It is collapsed in all but name. Protestants only in the electors, therefore there's pretty much no Protestants left to give electorships to. Yeah, with minus 0.75, there's no chance of them recouping unless the emperor becomes somebody strong and can do something about it. And at this point, we're the only option they have, and we're not going to switch to Protestants to become the emperor, so. It would be a fun way to go, though. Just flip to Protestant right now, redo everything, go crazy Protestants, even though we've destroyed the Protestant reform thing. But dismantling is pretty simple at this point. We just have to occupy Trier, which is the emperor, occupy his capital, and then we we click the button, and it dismantles, and it'll dismantle. It'll give us 100 prestige, I think, or something to do so, and that'll end the HRE. But we got to think about doing that, because doing that is going to change relations things like this, where we can't vassalize, it will be a deal. But it'll also change relations to people like France and Poland, who may have been technically less likely to attack. But I don't think that any of these guys are really concerned about Trier and Saxony as the upholders of justice in the HRE. We're going to go ahead and pay off our debt after we cashed in from Bohemia. We still haven't cashed in from Sweden yet, which we should do. We got forts that we don't need now. We're going to go ahead and dismantle the Soshen fortress, as well as the one up here in Elfsberg. Remember, if you're doing the dismantling of fortresses, remove the fortresses after the devastation has been resolved. So we cleared out a couple. What is that? 3 fortresses I think we removed. Helps the cash a little bit. Well, by 3.15. Still reinforcing for about the cost of our negative balance right now. We got a couple forts that are occupied. Those will disappear. Viborg will disappear. Kelmar is one. Finnmark will disappear. I think that's about it. Took care of the rebels up in Norway and bringing the troops back down. The 12th Army back down towards the Netherlands. So it's all over about the peace treaty in Sweden, and I really was just kind of leaving it because I always like going for entirely 100%, but then I realized this is silly. We're not taking everything. We don't need anywhere near 100% war score to do what we want to do, or 100% occupation. That's 35 war score to get the stuff that we actually came into this fight for. So, war reparations, cash, and 4 provinces, and that's where we'll end things. They can actually break some alliances, which might be good. Sometimes you want to leave the alliances so that a now weakened Sweden, for instance, becomes a pull-in target, so you can attack Sweden again when it's weak to bring, say, the Netherlands back into a war, or Scotland back into a war. We definitely have the war score to take on more stuff, and it's not going to hurt anything as far as aggressive expansion, coalition issues, because there's just things going on in the north really don't affect, because of the distance from places like France and Poland and Austria and the Italians, they're not really close enough to really make much effect. And the Russians consider it less of an issue because it's a different religion and a different continent and so on. So the reasons for having coalition or aggressive expansion are less, but we're going to actually go back to the original plan and just take the 3 provinces of the Kalmar province and the last of the Lübeck trade node there. This is what I was talking about the oops I did with the troops here. I could have, before the war, stopped them from moving and hopped them on the boat first, but I didn't. So we take the 3 provinces of the Kalmar province, that 1 extra, and we broke off some alliances and other things just for the prestige points, just because we could, because I hate wasting war score. But that solidifies the entire region of Lübeck, I believe, except for the 2 provinces of Brunswick, which we haven't dealt with. Everything else in the Lübeck trade node is physically owned and operated by us. So finish off our coring there. That leaves us at 427 for admin points, so not quite enough to grab the new tech. We shall do that momentarily, though. Turning our attention back to the Netherlands, we got the 12th fleet coming in from or 12th army coming in from the north, 13th, whatever it is. Gonna go pick up our dudes from Kola. That's the name of the province. I finally remembered it. And then we're just gonna siege work down here. Oh, looks like we bumped some ships out into the ocean, and they are gonna get crushed by Michael and his fleet. This crazy fleet of 56 light ships. We have the morale bonus as well as the number of ships bonus. But he does have a couple heavies in there, so it could be damaging, but the morale is just overwhelmingly high. Turns out we capture 1 of the heavies and lose 5 of our lights, so I think that's a total win, considering the amount of destruction we laid down on their fleet there. So heading back to the primary Flynn, is it? Lobard. No. Oh no, we're going to pull them into Gallery, that's right. because I realized I should probably keep them in somewhat of a nearby location to keep doing the job. So once the 12th gets in here, we'll have about 50k units. In here, we could easily take out the Netherlands units ourselves. However, I'm not in a big rush to... There we go with the dancing of the troops in the north. I'm not in a big rush to spend my manpower on breaking the Netherlands. Cologne has served its purpose as an ally fairly well over the years. Great buffer to the west, and really held things static there. But they are not of the true faith. They are also a potentially valuable bunch of territory, and I think I need at least a couple of them. So the longevity of this alliance with Cologne may be shifting. So just grabbing the fleet from Finnmark finally, doing a bit more conversion. The slow process. We're so high in the unity that it's not really an issue. But I definitely have my eyes set on Iceland at the moment. The fleet from the north there is going to the transport fleet is going to bring the 13 regiments from Finnmark down to the Scottish Islands there, the Northern Islands. Forget which ones that's called. It's not Shetlands, it's not Orkney, it's the other one. It looks like the Netherlands has been... they got some religious disorder going on, but they have been moving their troops, half of their army anyways, down into Ansbach, because it seems like everybody on the planet wants to take out Ansbach. They're like the ultimate decoy fleet. So I don't notice this while it's happening, but I didn't notice it at all when I was recording it. The Dutch fleet, just absolutely obliterated the Cologne's fleet. So annoying advisor's going to lose us 10 prestige, but at the same time he's going to give us a few points, I think, in Diplo points. They helped out with the Protestants or Catholics. I don't remember which one of those. Anyways. Some religious people that wanted to get some turf back. It's pretty much all over but the bleeding here for the Netherlands. There's no chance they get their stuff back. They do have 25 ships hanging out there still, so once the dudes are repaired, which we will separate off, put them there. It's only 5 units to repair. 40 of our ships will sit outside there and mash them when they come, when they get ejected from their docks. Strict bonus for the king. That's fantastic. Discipline +5. Not bad for the Prussians. It's a ridiculous nation. Where's our discipline? 120.4. Yep, that's happy. Rebels, unfortunately, Swedish rebels have popped over from Sweden to go mess with Oplanda. And so we got to bring the guys back that we're going to go after Iceland. Now we're pulling them back to Norway. Now we can afford to go ahead and get the Admin Tech 14, which also opens up our new idea group. A little bit of decision making here, actually a lot, probably like 5 minutes of sitting here looking back and forth at this near the end of this video. And the issue is basically, we'll run through them here as I'm babbling, as I'm flipping around on the screen, but Aristocratic has a bonus to military tech. They help the horses. They do have manpower. They increase the nobility loyalty, leader siege strength. A lot of good things in the aristocratic side of things, including another diplomat, navy tradition, which is not really an issue for us. But the national manpower modifier is there too. So as compared to, say, the quantity ideas, which I originally thought of taking, that has that bonus to it. The monthly autonomy is something I absolutely love about the nobility bonus here. Then we move on looking at offensive. We got siege ability bonuses. We've got discipline. We got all sorts of good stuff going on down there, including improving the effectiveness of our leaders. But in offensive ideas, those bonuses will happen as a base. We're sitting at 93 to 94, whatever it is now, in military tradition. So the likelihood of us not getting epic generals each time, like a 2-star general, is a disappointment at this point. So the idea of getting in offensive ideas to make sure that we've got that, the only real big things there left over are the last 3. So the others are not that important. the bonus prestige from it. We're always sitting at full. We got leader, shock, leader maneuver, leader, shock, and I think, yeah, land force limit, discipline, recovery of morale speed. Those are really actually quite potent. I don't know that I spend much time looking at defensive because I really don't want to go there, but the manpower recovery, the increase of the manpower, the increase of total force limit, mercenary thing's not that great, siege score not that great, land attrition minus 10% is huge. The cost of attrition is outrageous when you start running around with 40, 50, 80,000 troops in an army. And 10% less, that's a big deal. And at the end of quantity ideas, you fill that, and you end up getting 50% bonus to 50% bonus to your total land force limit. So it's a big deal. We go ahead and actually finally decide on the one that I originally talked about for ages, which is quantity ideas. The Swedish separatists take Uppland, and which is kind of annoying, but more separatism. That was because I didn't pay attention to them, but oh well. It happens. Zeeland, why are you so far away? Alright, and that's the end of the Dutch War of Independence. They have finally peaced out. So basically, it's weird because it shows no troops, Colonian casualties. It shows they lost, so essentially they weren't a thing now, but the Netherlands does exist. It sounded like they didn't, but they do. So the Netherlands annuls treaties of Sweden and Saxony, releasing Holland as a sovereign state and returning Brand to Hainaut and Limburg to Cologne. Limburg was the one that started it as a separate, an independence war. So that's why the whole weirdness, I think, with the not having any unit count for the dead. So basically it didn't count because the guys that actually started the war lost, but the other guys that joined them are now the Netherlands. So we'll see if we get, there's the separatists in Uppland done. We'll see if we get the Holland and others rejoining the Netherlands at some point, or if they have to do so via conquest, but that'll definitely be something that to watch for Holland in this situation. I'm going to go ahead and up a few units for the, I don't know what that is, not the 13th Army. Maybe they're the 13th. Are they the 13th? We'll let them get their thing. They're the 2nd Army, oddly enough. We'll let the 2nd Army get its do its siege down there of the rebel lands, and once it's done, it'll come back down to Nordiland, something like that. The north of the old Danish territories. So looking over things at the Netherlands, they are a Protestant nation. They have royal marriages with their old friends Saxony and Sweden, but they have broken alliances with them, forced broken alliances, so that's going to end that. We're kind of wrapping up for this episode. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. We've got the integration of Ansbach to look forward to in another 7 years, something like that. We can consider that. Possibly doing an alliance with Bavaria here. We are doing an alliance with Bavaria here. Possibly looking to eventually vassalize them. There's the rebels taken care of. 2nd Army, come back down and pick up your artillery before you join the Navy there and head off to Iceland to do things that you were supposed to be doing a long time ago. Rebels, I tell you, mess everything up. We got Swedish separatists looking to happen, but we'll see. We got trade, we're making 3280. I don't know if I actually keep track of what's going on here, but trade is 3280 right now, and we'll send these guys off to their trade route. It always amazes me how much money these fleets make at this point. And we've got enough military points because of the reduction of costs to actually go ahead and get the first manpower modifier. We're at 57,000. With the current deal, we take the bonus, and that jumps it substantially all the way up to 79,000. So yay for 760 manpower per month. Royal marriage with Bavaria solidified, and so that's pretty much it for Bavaria being independent. They're going to, until we decide not to, they're going to be our ally. So we could start the Golden Age. This is something I want to consider when we start timing into before we get into absolutism. The absolutism age, you get a bonus from your Golden Age. You get a big bonus to max absolutism, and it's like 5 points. It's not huge, but it is a big deal for me because you may want to sit at the end of the Age of Reformation and just at the very end click the Golden Age. Then it lasts well into the beginning of the next era. So that can be a useful strategy. So looking at potentials for next episode, we've got Trier still as the emperor, with Saxony as their good lordly elector friend. And I don't know if they're just going to sit there and toss the helmet back, the crown back and forth, or what. Well, that's right. We also have what is it, Holland? Holland is now also in it since they are Protestant and they separated off. So we got the three of them as potential electors, and there's still some Protestantism and some Catholicism going on in the German region, which we will tend to before the end. Hope you guys have been enjoying the series, but that's where we're going to put in a cut. Thank you so much for joining me, and as always, we'll see you in game.